Tonight on KPBS Evening Edition, pleading guilty. The wife of Congressman Duncan Hunter turns the table and takes a deal.
It was highly likely she would be convicted at trial because of the overwhelming evidence.
What Margaret Hunter pleaded guilty to in court and the possible motivation to flip on her husband. Plus, helping migrants at the border is becoming a legal challenge, why a recent mistrial could have a major effect on humanitarian groups. And big changes are coming to San Diego's Episcopal Diocese, the new woman who will soon be leading the church. KPBS Evening Edition starts right now. Good evening. It's Thursday, June 13th. Thanks for joining us. I'm Susan Murphy. The wife of Congressman Duncan Hunter takes a deal. Today, Margaret Hunter pleaded guilty to violating campaign finance laws. KPBS reporter Matt Hoffman was at the courthouse as the hearing unfolded.
Thanks, Ed. Margaret Hunter changed her plea from not guilty to guilty for conspiring to spend campaign funds for personal use. Now, under her plea agreement, she is cooperating with prosecutors, and it appears she will be testifying against her husband, Congressman Duncan Hunter.
Ms. Hunter, have you had a chance to talk to your husband?
On her way into court, Margaret Hunter did not answer any questions, but one thing was clear: she didn't have a wedding ring on. Both she and her husband, Congressman Hunter, are accused of spending more than $200,000 in campaign funds for personal use. Today, Mrs. Hunter admitted to conspiring with her husband to steal the money. Inside the courtroom, she responded, "Yes, sir," to the judge when asked if she knowingly misused the campaign funds. Mrs. Hunter struck a deal with prosecutors to plead guilty to one count of conspiracy to defraud the United States.
Generically, what would motivate someone to plead guilty is if there's overwhelming evidence against him or her and they feel that the only way they can get a break in their sentence is to plead guilty and cooperate with the government. She's not really getting a break in terms of what she's taking responsibility for doing. She's getting a break by virtue of her substantial assistance to the government.
Former federal prosecutor Jason Ford says it's uncommon for a wife to turn on her husband like this.
Anytime a couple is charged, it is very unusual for one to resolve the case completely independent of the other's resolution. It is far more common to have either a joint plea or, even more often, one spouse plead and the other get some sort of deferred prosecution.
Ford says he believes a number of reasons led to Mrs. Hunter cooperating with investigators, including comments made by Congressman Hunter.
The husband of Miss Hunter actually pointed the finger at her after the initial charges, which is highly unusual.
When I joined the Marine Corps, I gave power of attorney to my wife because I was gone all the time. Just like most guys that are gone all the time, they give power of attorney to their wives, and I didn't have a lot of visibility on my personal finances. And when I got into Congress, which I got elected a year after my last tour, within a year of my last tour, I kept it going the same way.
Ford says Mrs. Hunter's move to cooperate with investigators doesn't necessarily mean there wasn't already a strong case against her and her husband.
The government likely viewed Mr. Hunter as being far and away the more culpable of the two, if for no other reason because he is the actual elected representative and these are funds for his campaign.
Part of Mrs. Hunter's plea agreement includes giving information and testifying in the case, something Ford says will be key in the prosecution of Congressman Hunter.
I do think this is, in my view, the final nail in the coffin for him in terms of this case.
After the hearing, Mrs. Hunter left out of a back door and did not speak. Her attorneys did read a statement on her behalf.
I have fully accepted responsibility for my conduct. I am deeply remorseful and I apologize. I am saddened for the hurt that I've caused my family and others. I understand that there will be more consequences stemming from my actions, but as demonstrated this morning with the entry of the plea, I've taken the first step to face those consequences.
Margaret Hunter faces up to 5 years in prison. She's due back for sentencing later in September. At the federal courthouse, Matt Hoffman, KPBS News.
Congressman Duncan Hunter released a statement today saying in part, "It's obvious that the Department of Justice went after her to get to me for political reasons. As Margaret's case concludes, she should be left alone. I am the congressman. This is my campaign, and any further attention on this issue should be directed solely to me." White House Press Secretary Sarah Huckabee Sanders is stepping down at the end of the month. It was announced today in a tweet by President Trump. He wrote, "After 3.5 years, our wonderful Sarah Huckabee Sanders will be leaving the White House at the end of the month and going home to the great state of Arkansas. Sarah, thank you for a job well done." Sarah was with the president as he spoke, and she spoke after the announcement.
He has accomplished so much in these 2.5 years, and it's truly been something I will treasure forever. It's one of the greatest jobs I could ever have. I've loved every minute, even the hard minutes. I have loved it. I love the president. I love the team that I've had the opportunity to work for. The president is surrounded by some of the most incredible and most talented people you could ever imagine.
The move comes after several battles with the media over controversial comments and questions of her credibility. President Trump has not yet announced who her replacement will be. In Arizona, the Scott Warren case resulted in a mistrial on Tuesday after jurors could not decide whether it was a crime for Warren to help migrants. KPBS reporter Milena Spitzer says the case could have major implications for humanitarian groups operating on the San Diego-Tijuana border.
Scott Warren, an Arizona geography teacher, is a volunteer for No More Deaths, a faith-based group working to stop the deaths of migrants in the desert. Border Patrol agents filed 3 felony charges against Warren for helping a pair of Central American migrants who arrived at the organization's doorstep hungry, dehydrated, and with wounds on their feet.
The case could have major implications here in San Diego, where humanitarian groups worry they could be targeted for serving migrants. Dulce Garcia is an immigration attorney with the nonprofit Border Angels. She says volunteers conducting water drops in the desert with the hopes of saving lives could be next.
When we drop water at the desert, Border Patrol is very much present when we're there, photographing our vehicles, photographing our volunteers, and it's all intimidation tactics. And that's what the Scott Warren trial is about. Creating a chilling effect for people that are considering volunteering, for people that are considering donating, because now people are questioning, am I committing a crime by helping, by volunteering?
Garcia says Border Angels staff and volunteers have also been detained and interrogated at the border, along with other activists and journalists.
2 of our staff members from Border Angels are on a government watch list. Not only that, but they have been questioned, interrogated for hours when crossing back into the U.S.
The story raises questions of when helping undocumented border crossers means helping them commit a crime. Garcia says the trial has raised legal questions that she believes have been settled by international law.
The international community is in agreement that we should not be prosecuted. We should not be prosecuted for leaving water. Here, there are other organizations where we are helping our immigrant community, whether they're documented or not. Does that mean that they are harboring undocumented people? The legality of it is in question right now as a result of this trial.
For Garcia, this case hits close to home. In addition to being an immigration attorney, Garcia is a dreamer, an undocumented immigrant whose parents came to the U.S. when she was a child. Garcia says humanitarian activities like water drops are even more crucial since Trump's zero-tolerance policy went into effect. With more troops on the border and heightened border patrol presence, migrants have been attempting to cross more treacherous terrain over mountains and through deserts. More than 6,500 migrant deaths have been reported in the desert border region.
I think compassion is something that we all have in common. No matter what our political views are, no matter where we stand on immigration, I think as human beings, we all value human life. We all see that saving a life is important, and it should be without question that we should be allowed to do this kind of work.
As for Scott Warren, his case remains in limbo, with a conference set for July 2nd to discuss how to proceed. Milena Spitzer, KPBS News.
It's a first for the Episcopal Diocese of San Diego. This Saturday, a woman will take the reins of the diocese as its first female bishop. KPBS reporter John Carroll was at the official welcoming today.
The Reverend Canon Susan Brown Snook was elected earlier this year as the first female bishop in the Diocese of San Diego's 46-year history. This morning at St. Paul's Episcopal Cathedral, Snook was welcomed by San Diego Mayor Kevin Faulconer, along with faith leaders from Islam and Judaism. Faulconer said the occasion showed the unity of San Diegans. Canon Snook says she's just glad to be here in America's finest city and ready to get to work.
I am excited, I am overwhelmed, I am overjoyed, and I am ready to jump into mission in this beautiful and great city. I'm ready to just start working on God's fearless love.
Snook comes to San Diego from the Episcopal Diocese of Oklahoma. She'll be consecrated as the diocese's 6th bishop in services set for this Saturday at St. Paul's Cathedral. John Carroll, KPBS News.
It's been a hot week in San Diego, a sign that summer is on the horizon, but the temperatures could be cooling down slightly as we head into the weekend. KPBS meteorologist Daji Aswad has our forecast.
Definitely not as hot across Southern California for today, and that's because we're noticing an onshore flow that continues through this evening and even into tomorrow morning. With that onshore flow, going to notice some windy conditions out to the mountains, some gusts up to 45 miles per hour. Also could see that into the deserts and some gusty winds into the valleys as well. But at the coast, low coastal clouds building in. Here's a look at the satellite and radar from earlier today. Not a lot of precipitation for the state of California as a whole. We are noticing some clouds for San Diego. That continues to increase for tonight with a low of 61. Also dropping down into the lower 60s for Oceanside. If you're out to Borrego Springs, a low of 71 and a low 54 for Mount Laguna with a few clouds, but in Borrego Springs, pretty clear night. Moving into your Friday, closing out that work week and not as hot even back into the desert areas. We will remain in the triple digits into Borrego Springs, a high of 101, 71 in Mount Laguna, and looking at a high of 68 in San Diego, 71 in Oceanside, with some clouds available through the morning hours and then some sun to burn them off throughout the day. Now, this weekend is Father's Day. Be sure to get that special gift for him or just treat him out to a nice day in the park, and you're definitely going to have the weather for it. Remains dry for San Diego and much of California. At the coast, temperatures not going to be changing much in the lower 70s the next several days. You do notice we still have some low clouds Saturday morning, and then the sun will come on through, and that's going to be the pattern. Some clouds in the morning, then burning off throughout the day. We're pretty used to that. Into the inland areas, highs in the upper 70s, your overnight lows in the upper 50s. Friday, Saturday, looking at some sun, but lots of sunshine Saturday. Sunday, low clouds, then the sun coming out for your Father's Day, and looking dry for Monday and Tuesday. We'll be in the triple digits Friday and Saturday in the deserts, upper 90s Sunday, Monday, and Tuesday, and that sun not going anywhere. Put on that sunscreen to keep yourself safe. And moving into the mountains, lower 70s here, feeling a bit cooler as you head into the early week. Lots of sunshine in store for the mountains for your Father's Day and even into the early week. Reporting for KPBS News, I'm your meteorologist, Daji Aswad. Back to you.
President Donald Trump celebrates his 73rd birthday tomorrow. The president intends to seek a second term in office. If he wins, he will be 78 when he finally steps down. That will make him the oldest U.S. president ever. KPBS's Priya Sridhar shows us the U.S. presidents in their 70s.
Help me God. So help me God. Congratulations, Mr. President.
Donald Trump was the oldest U.S. president to take office at his inauguration in January 2017 at the age of 70. In January 2018, the president's doctor said that Trump's overall health is excellent and he did exceedingly well on cognitive screening. The White House physician said his heart exam was normal with regular rhythm and no abnormal sounds. Trump also has no heart disease and no family history of it.
I, Ronald Reagan, do solemnly swear
that I will faithfully execute the office of President of the United States.
That I will faithfully execute the office of President of the United States.
When President Ronald Reagan became the 40th president in 1980, he was just shy of his 70th birthday. At 69, Reagan was the oldest man ever elected president. Near tragedy struck on his 70th day as president. On March 30th, 1981, Reagan was leaving a Washington hotel when a young drifter, John Hinckley, fired 6 shots at him. A bullet lodged an inch from Reagan's heart, but he recovered. 4 years later, he was reelected. Reagan left office in 1989.
I've spoken of the shining city all my political life, but I don't know if I ever quite communicated what I saw when I said it. But in my mind, it was a tall, proud city built on rocks stronger than oceans, windswept, God-blessed, and teeming with people of all kinds living in harmony and peace.
5 years after leaving office, Reagan told the world he had been diagnosed with Alzheimer's, an incurable illness that destroys brain cells. Reagan died in 2004 at age 93. His death was caused by pneumonia.
Preserve, protect, and defend the Constitution of the United States. So help you God. So help me God.
The Second World War military hero Dwight D. Eisenhower was elected to the U.S. presidency in 1952 at the age of 63. However, his health was a recurrent concern during his presidency. In September 1955, he suffered a heart attack while on vacation in Denver.
He took over the presidency at a time of great international tension when America's attitude was the key to peace or war. He brought all his enthusiasm and courage to this, his greatest office, but the effort was too much and suddenly very ill indeed.
Eisenhower's cardiologist advised him not to seek a second term because of his weak heart. But under political pressure, the cardiologist agreed to sign a statement saying that Eisenhower was fit enough to seek another term. It turned out he was. Eisenhower was reelected. After leaving office in 1961 at the age of 70, Eisenhower suffered 3 more heart attacks and died of heart failure in 1969 at the age of 78.
Our country's destiny, to my mind, is to serve mankind through leadership in the arts of peace. With all the strength I can command and the devotion I hold for my country, I pledge myself to this objective.
As of now, President Trump's biggest competition in the 2020 presidential race is former Vice President Joe Biden, who is 76. If Biden wins, he will be the oldest U.S. president to take office.
I'm Judy Woodruff. Tonight on the NewsHour, President Trump defends his willingness to take information from foreign governments to damage political opponents. Coming up at 7 after Evening Edition on KPBS.
Lights, cameras, books. The San Diego Public Library has kicked off its summer reading program to encourage children of all ages to bring characters to life through reading. This year's theme, it's showtime at your library. Earlier today, I visited the Malcolm X Library in Southeast San Diego to learn about some special incentives and prizes. Addie Huertas is City of San Diego's supervising librarian for Youth and Family Services. She's joining me here at the Malcolm X Library. Welcome, Addie.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
So tell us about the summer reading program.
The summer reading program is a program that we have every year throughout the summer, and it happens citywide, our 36 libraries. We want to encourage folks reading. We want it to be fun. We want it to be engaging. We want people to read whatever they want to read, but create this community of literacy. And the incentive is if people sign up at any of our libraries, they will receive a reading log. Then they can read 10 books or 10 hours and bring that back to the library and receive prizes that include free books. It includes passes to our museums. It includes free food in the community and just a plethora of incentives to reward youth and adults and everybody for reading. We make this available for all ages, and we want parents to model reading to their youth, and we want the youth to read and prevent that loss, that summer loss, what we call the summer slide, and to be able to continue practicing their literacy skills.
Great, and there's a unique program here at the Malcolm X Library. Tell us about that.
Yes, so the library is the lead in the national campaign called Campaign for Grade Level Reading. And what our focus is to focus getting youth ready and proficient in reading by 3rd grade. And what we've done is we want to concentrate here in the Southeast San Diego community and partner with our nonprofit, which is the Diamond Educational Excellence Partnership, to make sure that we concentrate efforts here in the Southeast San Diego to move forward on that campaign and to move the needle on that.
What a wonderful program. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
As Addie mentioned, the library is partnering with a local nonprofit called DEEP. Joining me to tell us more about how this program is working in Southeast San Diego is Gina Joncero. Thank you so much for being here.
It's my pleasure.
So tell us about this new program.
Well, the Diamond Educational Excellence Partnership, or DEEP, is a nonprofit that's focused on making sure that children in this part of the city can read by the end of 3rd grade. And that's really because the data show us that they lag their peers in other parts of the city. And we know that during summer, they can fall even farther behind.
So there are specific programs, activities, and events in addition to the City of San Diego's reading program incentives. Tell us about those.
So for each of the 10 weeks of the effort in Southeast San Diego, we're going to have read-alouds offered all over the city. Each week has a different theme, and we'll have doctors reading during the week of wellness. We'll have barber shops and beauty salons reading during the week of beauty, organizations reading during the week of community building. So every week you can go on our website and find out where the read-alouds are happening.
Okay, great. And so tell us about this blue bin. You said that students are able to get some free books.
So one of the things we wanted to be able to do is make sure that children had access to free books all over the city. If they can't make it to the library or the library's closed, they can find one of these blue bins at businesses and partner organizations all over the city. We have a map that shows where they are in Southeast San Diego that you can also find on our website.
Fantastic. And so this is not just at the Malcolm X Library, but in libraries all over Southeast San Diego.
In businesses and partner organizations all over Southeast San Diego.
And there are also book clubs. Tell us about those.
Right. So for each of the 10 weeks of the campaign, we have a local leader or local Southeast San Diego author hosting book clubs here at the Malcolm X Library from 5 to 7 p.m. Anyone can sign up. Our first book club is coming up on Tuesday, June 18th from 5 to 7. It will be led by Ronald Preston Clark, a Southeast San Diego author, and he'll be discussing his book, Vinny, A Love Letter. So we hope people will come on out, and we want to have adults reading, because when kids see adults reading, that also affects their love of reading.
Gina, thank you so much for joining us.
My pleasure.
If you prefer to be outside, San Diego has plenty of summer staples, and this weekend, 2 lesser-known favorites return: Wonder Spaces and Shock in the Park, plus a non-traditional staging of Little Shop of Horrors. Here with details is KPBS arts editor Nina Guerin.
Wonder Spaces is one of San Diego's favorite new summer traditions, and it returns for another season of immersive and interactive art. This pop-up museum takes visitors through a variety of rooms with installations that include a rainbow-colored room and a reflective metal walkway that you can ride like a wave. Plus, there are all-new virtual reality experiences. For 2019, the Wonder Spaces theme is in common, and all the artwork was created keeping other people in mind. Another San Diego summer tradition is Culture Shock Dance Center's annual Shock in the Park. Only this year it moves to Horton Plaza Park. This is an afternoon that showcases the many hip-hop troops training and performing at Culture Shock, from beginning troops to more established crews that perform throughout Southern California. And if you ever wanted to see a real live dance battle, stick around until the end, when the youth and adult dancers will vie for the top spot. The free event also has food, DJs, vendors, and more. Don't expect anything traditional about New Village Art's Little Shop of Horrors. The Carlsbad Theater has a new version that's full of unexpected surprises.
You know the kind of eats the kind of right hot treats, kind of sticky, licky, sweet, and bread.
The story about a carnivorous plant that only survives on human blood is still campy and silly, But instead of the greedy Mr. Mushnik, now you have a Mrs. Mushnik, plus a Greek chorus that includes a male tenor along with the female voices. This version still has the beloved songs written by the Little Mermaid songwriting team of Alan Menken and Howard Ashman. Go if you dare, but be prepared for some scares. For KPBS Arts, I'm Nina Guerin.
Now for a recap of tonight's top stories. Congressman Duncan Hunter's wife has taken a deal. Margaret Hunter pleaded guilty today to violating campaign finance laws. It is unclear if she will testify against her husband, who faces the same charges. She is facing up to 5 years in federal custody and a fine up to $250,000 when she is sentenced on September 16th. White House Press Secretary Sarah Huckabee Sanders is stepping down at the end of the month. It was announced today in a tweet by President Trump. The move comes after several battles with the media over controversial comments and questions of her credibility. President Trump has not yet announced who her replacement will be. The San Diego Public Library has kicked off its summer reading program to encourage children of all ages to bring characters to life through reading. This year's theme, it's Showtime at Your Library. It's a 10-week literacy program that runs through August 17th. You can find tonight's stories on our website, kpbs.org/evening edition. Thank you for joining us. Have a great evening.